No! No! No!
Extravaganza.
What is up, ghosts? It's that time again. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. For the horror pop extravaganza. The horror pop extravaganza. What up, everybody? I just got done doing this Facebook live event, so I'm already all amped up, ready to talk into a digital device. I am Pops Ghostly, and with me today I've got
Bill Boner spit.
William, such language. Bill Boner Spit.
That's the American pronunciation, but it's actually German. It's Boner spit.
Oh, Boner Spit.
Boner spit.
Right. Love you, Josh. I always want Josh to know I love him, and I am not making fun of him. I love that man over there in Germany. Did a great podcast together. Man, I'm excited about today. I'm excited to, for those of you who don't know, if you don't keep up, this is your first time to the show. We have been trying for the last couple episodes to put the upcoming movie in the show notes so that you have time if you'd like to revisit the flick leading up to Friday when it drops at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can do that. And this week we are going back to 1990. I was a little eight-year-old Pops Ghostly, little tiny little ghost. Probably just recently played the fucking game where I get the name, where the name comes from, Pops Ghostly. Nobody knows that shit, but I have a picture of me opening that motherfucker up at my 6th birthday, the Action Max that hooked up to your VCR, and you put in a VHS tape, calibrated your TV, and then you light gun the motherfucker, the tape. And there was one called The Rescue of Pops Ghostly, and I loved that shit, dude. And I've been going all over fucking used game stores my whole life and have never seen one. Asking these dudes that have spent their whole life collecting all this shit, and they're like, nah, never fucking seen one in person, dude. Never seen one. So they're probably all in a landfill with all the fucking ET shit somewhere. But little 8-year-old me in 1990 was fucking probably watching this shit in 91 when my mom got it on VHS. She was a huge Stephen King nut. Huge Stephen King nut. And I think everybody was. As I was doing a little bit of homework on this one, on the release and shit like that, I was like, holy fuck, dude. He had like a couple of properties, like 2 or 3 a year for the entire 80s that he's attached to. Either his own shit coming out, TV, movies, stuff that he's acting in, Creep Show, directing fucking Maximum Overdrive, fucking admitting like I was doing a lot of cocaine. And this movie actually ties into some of that stuff that we'll get to closer to the end. But I do recall seeing Misery relatively early and it fucking scaring the shit out of me. I didn't even fully understand why it scared me. I just knew that it absolutely terrified me. And rewatching it earlier today before you and I were going to sit down scared the shit out of me again, dude. It doesn't stop doing it. So I'm super excited. But before we get to that, why don't you give us, if you have any forethoughts on Misery before we get into it, and if not, just give us that sweet IMDb.
Yeah, man. I was like 12 years old when this came out. So I got a few years on you, but I was reading at this point. This is when I was just
I hope you were reading at 12 years old.
I mean, like I was breaking out of like Batman 89 and RoboCop 2 into like, all right, maybe I'll dip my toe into some original material. And I was like, well, Misery is gonna be a movie, so I'll go ahead and read that one.
Ooh. I read The Shining in 8th grade. I don't know how old you are in 8th grade, like 13, 14, something like that.
Too young to read The Shining.
I don't know. I read The Hobbit in 5th grade. But I know I read The Shining because my mom had them all. They were all right there. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I read it, to completion and shit, but I remember reading it being like, what the fuck, man? Like, this is crazy. But that's cool. So you read the whole book before you ever saw the movie?
Yes. And was taken aback because this one really changed the ending.
Oh, big time. Well, it changes a lot. It kind of flip-flops the weapon from The Shining. In The Shining, it was supposed to be a mallet, and in this, it was supposed to be a fucking axe where she hacks his leg off and then propane torches it.
Yeah. It's fucked up, yo.
Right, dude. Right, but we're gonna get into why this movie is so absolutely wonderful. So that's cool. So do you have any bias towards the book then? Because you read that first, did it do anything to the movie for you outside of, his stuff? If there's one thing that I think even Stephen King can admit it sometimes, he has a hard time ending a story.
Yes, his third acts always go to hell.
I wouldn't say the whole third act. I would say the last usually couple of minutes, the last like 3 or 4 pages. Well, he doesn't ever have a last 3 or 4 page, but you know what I mean? But even he has admitted that over the years. I could never in a million years try to say, Stephen King ain't no fucking like, no, dude, my heart would never be able to do it. That dude's wrote some of the scariest shit I've ever read in my life. And yeah, it's amazing that he can take his mind to those places without going fucking crazy.
Right. Yeah, he's a pretty like normal, unassuming dude.
Yeah, when I watched his kid talk when we went to that Joe Hill speaking up in Traverse City, he was like, I would come home from school and he's like, you would just hear click, 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 dad would be in one room, click, 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 mom would be in the other room. He's like, it was just natural. I started click, click, clicking around with everybody else in the house. And yeah, he's pretty he can tap into that dark shit without letting it really, make him dark, I
I
guess.
think his sense of humor, dude. He has a dark
Yeah,
sense of humor, and I think that as long as you can find the humor in things, like nothing will get too bad.
sure, sure. I don't know. All right. Why don't you
Maybe we'll save that for the mindful portion.
Right. I mean, the end of the Dark Tower, dude, when I read them last couple pages.
That was a gut punch, but it saved Stephen King for me because I was like, oh, he can write an ending.
Right, right, right. Right. That was a good one, but at the same time, I was like, oh shit. All right, go ahead. Lay
All
the
right.
IMDb on us, because this is a lot of cool players. A lot of
Well,
award-winning players.
not as many as you would think, but
Did Rob Reiner never win nothing?
Rob Reiner, he's a fucking national treasure.
Right.
Um, I don't know that he's an award-winning national treasure though.
I looked at the two because when I was kind of looking into this a little bit, I saw that he directed Stand By Me as well. And those are number 2 and 3. Stand By Me is 2, and this is 3 on Rotten Tomatoes for Stephen King's adaptations, with Carrie taking the number 1 spot. But they're the highest rated, the two that Rob Reiner touched. And I'm like, did he not get a fucking Golden Globe or something? You know what I mean? Something along the way, because he's had his hand in a lot of really cool shit over the years. And you
Oh,
can
yeah.
watch fucking All in the Family, and fucking Duke can act too.
Yup.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great talent.
Meathead.
Yeah. Ah, Edith, get Meathead out of here. Oh,
Uh,
Jimmy, be quiet. I got your meatloaf, Freddie.
I could not watch that show, dude, just because of her voice.
Oh, I like all it was progressive for its time, and going back, I think if you can put yourself in that time frame, showing kind of like this old, Archie's way of thinking has got to go. Like it's just old school. And then you get Jefferson fucking moves in next door, and those two are kind of the same thing on two sides of the same coin, having this social commentary. Her voice is something, but I love Edith. I remember the one where she almost got raped, and that was real powerful. That was fucking, yeah. Archie, the guy was like, "Come on, lady, fucking, I'm here to fix your stove," but I don't remember all the details, but it was fucked up,
Jesus, that was
right?
that show came on right after cartoons. Yeah, like what the hell? All right, Misery,
Hmm.
starring James Caan, the one and only.
Yes, I like me some James Caan.
I don't know how James Caan did this movie. How did he lay in a bed for that long when he's such
They
a
said he had some problems, like it was hard. Everybody in the whole crew couldn't wait to get out of the bedroom and shoot some of the hallway and shit like that, because it was a lot of this is very isolated in just
Yeah.
one location, and that's it. And he's that. I don't think we were used to seeing him being so vulnerable, because he's vulnerable the whole time. He's fucking trapped, by this psychopath. But James Caan, fuck cool, dude.
This movie wouldn't be what it is without this person, Kathy Bates.
The one and only, man.
Dude, and she just
Right.
came out of nowhere and played this part and just
Yeah,
fucking nailed it, dude. And I think that's probably the biggest difference. Like, I didn't picture Kathy Bates when I read the book.
sure. I
Like,
don't think we ever picture who they cast when we read the book.
yeah, I wouldn't have thought her, but then, like, I was picturing more like a Nurse Ratchet.
What if, okay, sidestep real quick. What
Yeah.
if the Neuralink technology, you read a book and it could recreate the image based on your own thoughts of what the characters look like? Would you watch that movie?
Dude, I don't know.
Anyway, yeah, okay, so you saw her as more of a, kind of slimmer, scare, but I guess in the book it was even scarier though, because she's fucking chopping his legs off and shit. And
Right, but I didn't see the sweetness that Kathy Bates brought to it. She
Mm,
brought kind of like this like aloofness to the person where she really kind of was a sweet lady until she wasn't. You
right.
know?
Yeah.
And I didn't see that as I saw it like constantly hard.
You were constantly hard watching
Constantly
Captain.
hard when I was reading the book, which was
Oh.
weird for me because it's hard to flip the pages when your boner's in the way.
No, Kathy Bates took home an Oscar for this performance, and I think she took home a Golden Globe as well. Like you said, without her, this isn't it. Stephen King wrote Dolores Claiborne after this with her in mind, like her performance. He even said, like, holy shit, man, like good fucking job, dude.
Yeah.
You crushed that shit. Because she had to carry almost the entirety of the movie on her shoulders.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
Against James Caan, who was like this like behemoth of acting, you know?
And I guess they butted heads a little bit because she was theater trained and he was just like, yeah, no rehearsal. I'll just fuck give me my lines. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah,
Yeah. However, the end result is really fucking pretty great.
it really is. Richard Farnsworth,
The
the
shit.
man, love the sheriff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really this one of the ones where like I'm rooting for the sheriff to get murdered in the basement, but this was one where I was like, oh man, that guy was all
Dude.
right.
Him and his wife.
Yeah, his wife was Frances Sternhagen.
Yeah. That's
Could
a
have been one of
name.
my names.
Right. Could be your grandma. You don't even know it.
Yeah, yeah.
Sternhagen.
And then Lauren Bacall's in this, which I think we forget. She was the agent.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's got a picture of her like in the 50s, just looking like a black and white smoke show.
Which, I mean, a lot of them, they were called bombshells for a reason. They were done up a certain way, like the amount of makeup and all that shit that had to go in. It's like make them look like dolls, man.
Yeah.
Make them look like dolls.
Sexy. Ugh. And you want to know what IMDb says this movie's about?
I would love to know that information.
I pre-read this one. I normally don't pre-read them.
Ball spit.
Oh, boner spit.
Boulder spit. Okay.
After a famous author is rescued from a car crash by a fan of his novels, he comes to realize that the care he's receiving, is only the beginning of a nightmare of captivity and abuse.
That's spot fucking odd.
That's spot fucking on. Yeah. Like, I don't think there's ever been.
One that really delivers the way that one does because it tells you exactly what happens in this thing. I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh, spoiler.
we open up on Paul Sheldon, iconic writer. And I did read that Stephen King said in an interview, it was only like 20 years after the shit came out that he wrote this about his own addiction and that Kathy Bates represents the addiction in his life. And watching it through that lens this time, I was like, holy shit. Like keeping him trapped and keeping him like, you fucking write exactly what I tell you to do. And you're not going to be able to get out of bed. You're going to be stuck all fucking day long like a piece of shit and all these things. And I was like, damn, dude, that really, I'd like to watch it even one more time now and through that lens again and be like, oh, you wrote this about, but I guess he didn't say anything about it because he wasn't ready. He's like, I wasn't ready to share that part of it yet. So a lot of people believed it was, and I think there could have been some crazy fan in his life. He's had to have had crazy fans, right?
Right.
No doubt
Yeah.
about it.
Well,
But
he's talked about people that like camp out on his lawn and shit.
right.
And you're like, dude, fuck off. Go
Right.
away.
I know, not on somebody's lawn, dude. Leave them alone. Say,
Right.
like, sign a petition to be like, hey, kid, 1,000 of us want to meet you. Will you come out? We'll pay you 10 grand to sit here and sign autographs. He might do it. He loves what he does.
Instead, they put a trail of cocaine out to his mailbox and he just followed that. And then they're like, can we get an autograph?
I love him
Ah,
talking about
Jesus.
this. Love him talking about his cocaine use. Like, fuck, that was rough. So anyway, Paul Sheldon has a cigarette, he's tick, 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 on an old typewriter, a cigarette, a single match. It's all very ceremonial. Everything's just right.
I like it.
Me too. He's got this. We're witnessing for the first time this ritual when he finishes a novel, which he quit smoking years ago, but he has one cigarette. So he lays out one match and he's fucking James Caan. So he just lights that shit off his fucking thumb, which is fantastic, and has a glass of champagne. He wraps up his novel, jump to some exteriors of a snowy fucking Denver. We're not in Maine. This is one of the exceptions where we're not hanging out in Maine. We're in Colorado somewhere. It's not Denver, but it's somewhere Colorado. And he's up in this destination retreat cabin, whatever. I don't know if he owns it. He probably owns it. He's super wealthy. Throws his manuscript in his bag, jumps in the car. Doesn't look like he should be driving. I would have just stayed the night.
Yeah.
But, you know, he hits the road. He's fucking doing good, having a good time. And then all of a sudden it's getting real heavy. Wipers going everywhere. Tumble down the fucking snowbank. Scary. If you've ever lived somewhere where you get really heavy snow, you know the intensity of that shit and it can bury stuff quickly. I've woken up and my car was gone a couple times. Just like, oh yeah, we got a foot and a half of snow. Look at that shit. That's crazy. All already, you get the blowing and the drifting and all that stuff. Either way, he's flipped over, banged up real good in the car, and then we see a set of headlights, and here comes our angel, our beautiful saving angel.
Oh, lucky she was there and she had medical training.
Right. Some real medical training, though. We should know she does have actual medical training, even though she's fucking nuts. Did you watch the Hulu thing, Castle Rock?
I watched a little bit of it, dude, but it just didn't hit for me.
The season with her?
I watched some of it and I just didn't get
Oh,
into
I
it.
loved it, dude. By the time we
Okay.
got to the end, yeah, I like her as a character, and I think she really did a good job playing her. But either way, in this, we just see her bundled up. We don't even know it's Kathy Bates yet. And then we have Paul kind of like opening his eyes. I want to say he had called his editor or somebody though and said, "Hey, I'm on my way back to New York." Because, or the airport, wherever he's going, because they do know that he's missing. They know that he was up there and they do know that he's gone. Or maybe it was the guy he was renting it from. I don't know. But at first, he just opens his eyes and you really have this like Little House on the Prairie type Kathy Bates. Oh, hey, sleepyhead. You took a big bang there, didn't you? And he's just like, what the fuck? Twisted out of a car accident. Legs are all, and the makeup is really good in this too, because his legs look gross, dude. All the purple bruising that he's got everywhere. And she's like, I don't know how I saw you, da 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 da. If I wouldn't have found you, you'd be dead. Oh, can I call some? No, the phone lines are down and the storm's crazy. You just get some rest. Don't worry, I'm a nurse. I'll take care of you. And maybe he just goes to sleep right here. This,
At first, like, all right, well, I guess I
right.
lucked out.
Mm-hmm. Because the place is super well put together. It's an old farmhouse where she lives with Misery, who we'll get to in just a few moments, because I want to say it's the next day when she first lays it on him that she is his biggest fan. I am your biggest fan. I love, yeah, you saved my life. And she's like, I saw when I was getting your shit together, is that your new book over there? And he's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And she's like, oh, fuck, could I read it? Oh, he's so nice. And she really is just like, oh, like got a little cross, wearing a little cross pennant.
Yeah.
Soft. She's gentle. She's very timid. And this is why Kathy Bates won a fucking Oscar, because she plays this back and forth, something fierce. So she goes on to read the book. He's like, oh, normally, but he's being grateful. He's like, yeah, you know what? Go ahead. I normally wouldn't do this before my editors, before all these people, but you saved me. Go ahead and read my book. So she leaves for a little while and comes back and she's like, you got to change this shit. And as the viewer, you're like, whoa.
Right.
Yeah.
Where'd this come from?
Right. All the profanity. Do I just walk around saying, give me my bastard peas when I'm at the grocery store and give me my cocksucker apples? And she's being really weird, but the intensity, there's a rage, switch that flips that is terrifying, because not only are you at the whim of this psychopath, but they're also in love with you. you're
Right.
just a regular, Joe Schmo that she's helping out. She might help out somebody regular, who knows, and just let him go, or she might kill him. She seems to be pretty unstable as we continue on throughout this thing. But her performance again, Kathy Bates goes from this really proper petite to just, you gotta, how could you? This isn't you, blah blah blah. And he's like, well, I want to write some shit other than, fucking misery and shit like that. She's like, oh, I'm your biggest, and she's got every book Misery ever did. And she knows all the words. She's a genuine super fan in the like she sees Misery as existing outside of this dude's writings, which is a debate and an argument and a conversation we could have for probably 10 hours just on, does the writing become alive? Once it becomes a part of the zeitgeist, once something gets so big that it gains on a personality of its own almost.
The
However,
dude that wrote Conan stories, he said that Conan would stand behind him and make him write those stories. Anne Rice said that Lestat was a real vampire that came to her that told her all of that history and
oh,
everything.
dude, the history and the muses of the world. If you really read some of the artists who have contributed stuff that is, almost anyone can attach to it. It seems human. It's so base level. But yeah, I agree with you there. But in this, she's just super fan number one. She loves Paul Sheldon.
And can you sympathize here? Have you had someone who you really like idolized and looked up to and then found out that they were just a total fucking creep and not at all what you thought they were?
I can't think of any that the ones that I've looked up to, I feel like I've looked up to like Jim Henson, Bruce Lee. I'm trying to think of like my media type, that's what I'm saying, thinking like, or authors like Tolkien, I've always kept Lord of the Rings. Huxley, I don't know if he was a super creep. He seemed too dystopian to be like creepy and shit like that. But that's more modern stuff. I don't know about like the ancient wisdom shit. But why do
I'll
you
tell
have
you
one?
mine.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me, please.
Pee Wee Herman, when he jerked off in the movie theater, dude, that fucking broke me because he was like my little kid icon. And
Yeah.
I was like, how could he do something like that? Like, even if he wanted to jerk off, didn't he think to himself, I'm Pee Wee Herman. If I get caught doing this, like my career's over. But I
Now,
think that's what he wanted.
now he's in a smut theater.
He's in a smut theater, but Pee Wee Herman shouldn't be in a smut theater.
He was a gay man who could not be out as being a gay man who was in a smut theater where probably everybody else around him was like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I feel like he truly was. And I don't know how accessible, all that shit was as far as like take it home with you, get some fucking home media and, take a smut movie home. But I don't fault Pee Wee at all, Paul, because it's not like, I don't know, man. Like I feel like he was in an environment where you would expect somebody to be doing exactly what he was doing.
Right. And I
It's not like
can
he was at a fucking playground, beating off in front of a bunch of children. He was in a fucking pornographic theater and
right.
probably disguised up a little bit. And somebody probably followed him after the fame of Pee Wee, trying to be like, I'm gonna get rich off this paparazzi motherfucking boom, gotcha, bitch. Now I can, buy a car that I'm gonna lose to an ex-wife in 3 to 4 years.
Right. No, exactly. And it continued on, Bill Cosby, Michael Jackson, all these guys. I looked up to those people and I thought, like, I always heard that Bill Cosby was like always telling the people on the set, that how they had to behave and everything.
Yeah.
Find out he's a total fucking creepo. And you're just like,
And that's, what though, and this is really hard and a lot of people fucking probably tell me I'm wrong, but Bill Cosby, I doubt, when he was doing good in the world, he wasn't always a fucking creepo. And I think that kind of celebrity fucks with people, dude. It doesn't matter. It's been going on since fucking Caligula. Weird, fucked up sex shit all the time. We seem to be obsessed with filling the voids in our personal selves with fucking sex that gets weirder and weirder because you got to keep trying to satiate the weirdness. And I think you get a level of celebrity where it's almost, it happens. I don't want to say it's not acceptable. It's never acceptable. However, when you surround yourself with like yes men and shit like that, and people who do maybe 9 times out of 10, some girl threw herself at you, and you had consensual sex and it was something, and you become in this habit of doing a certain thing. I don't know. I hope to never have to live with that, battling that in my mind. But they all did some good too. Like we mentioned before, Martin Luther King is said to have been a womanizer, and Junior was said to have been a bit of a womanizer. Does that make all the fucking radical good that dude did wrong or
Right.
not
That goes
acceptable?
into, can you
Now, I
separate
don't know if he was drugging people and shit. Like Cosby seemed a little more predatory. Who knows? Maybe it fucking, I don't know, dude. I'm not trying to defend Bill Cosby here. I'm here to talk about Misery. I'm just saying, yeah, you can, I think to some extent, you can separate the art from the artist
I
and the
remember
works from, because not everybody's always in a state of like, you know what I mean? You don't live like that. Nobody, for the most part, I don't think. Maybe Jared from Subway, but he seemed to be the only one that was like all the time, like gross with all that shit on his computers. But
I
yeah,
agree. I just at 12 years old couldn't comprehend that somebody that came off in a way that like I respected and enjoyed the
he was
entertainment.
our dad, man. He was
Right.
fucking America's dad. Bill Cosby was.
Right. And I just couldn't imagine that somebody could be do so well one way, like portraying a dad, and then be doing this other stuff on the side. And so I'm saying from like Kathy Bates' point of view, I understand how she got so mad at the artist for not living up to her expectation of what he should
Sure.
be.
Sure.
And
But have you ever done, well, I mean, I guess I've done it with some like movies and shit, but usually it's like remakes and stuff. Have you ever done that with a piece of art though? Like
what do you
she
mean?
was so mad. I think she was more in love with Misery than she was Paul Sheldon. She thought she was in love with him, and eventually she says some shit, but we see her go through pure psychosis in this fucking movie. She's going, but she was in love with Misery, and the idea of Misery dying, I think, was more like she named that fucking pig that ran around the house Misery.
I can tell you this. And this is going into some deep stuff that I probably haven't even dealt with yet, but for a little while there, I was writing these parts, and then I'd see a woman on the street, and I'd be like, she's my girl. She's the girl for this part. And I'd hand her my card and be like, I don't want to be creepy, but like, here's my card. I'm making this movie. And several times I got girls that I didn't know who became really good friends. And each time I would fall in love with them until I realized I wasn't in love with them. I was in love with the character I wrote them to be.
Right.
And that shit got weird and fucked up real fast.
I mean, next week we're going to be talking about the movie Companion, which is, I mean, a lot of what you're talking about. And I know I always talk about these great old Twilight Zone episodes, but there's an awesome one where a writer writes a woman into existence and she's there. And then when his real wife shows up, he like puts the piece of paper away. But it's this, kind of manufactured thing that you then, I would guess, projected onto this person you saw who's pseudo fit the description
Right.
of the.
But then they would act like I would go hang out with them like at a bar and be like, ew, I don't like the way this person acts in public. How
Right.
dare she do that? And I was like, I'm gonna write this part out because I don't like it. It's just it got real psychic. It was like psycho. It was weird.
Yeah. Strange.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably got to deal with that a little bit more, but you're doing great on your path. It'll come
Yeah.
up when it's
Yeah.
time to
I
come up.
got married and I don't put her in my movies.
Though, there's been some great teams. If you look at Sherry Moon Zombie, I think she could only ever really show up in a lot of Rob's stuff. And that's a relationship I want to be like, because that seems like a fucking solid one, dude. He's been doing the creepo thing. Same with like Alice Cooper, been doing the shock rock thing forever, but have like super solid, it seems, home lives. You never hear like Rob Zombie fucking beat his wife. It's like, oh yeah. You just Google like they don't ever go out really that much and shit. And they've been married for like 40 years and they love each other. And he's got a bunch of creepy shit all over his house. I probably wouldn't go out either. He's got fucking statues of Creature from the Black Lagoon and millions of movies all over the place, horror movies I had never even seen. So anyway, she freaks the fuck out on him. Not really freaked out yet because we see it get amped up, but she tells him this is too much. This is too much. He's like, oh, what are you fuck talking about? She keeps him locked in there. And that's kind of terrible in and of itself.
I
But
remember the first time you hear that key turn in the latch.
yeah.
And you're just like, ooh, fuck.
Right. Yeah, and then he's really like kind of panicking, looking outside, and the snow's coming down heavy. So it is going to cover up a lot of the tracks that he went off the road, especially up in the mountains like that. Snow might fall, 4, 5, 6 feet over the course of a couple of days. That'll happen when you're driving up and down mountains. I've been in that shit, and they're like, put your fucking chains on. Well, you've been out that way. I don't know if you've ever gone and had to put your chains on and shit. Like they don't allow you to go up the mountain without chains on your tires.
Yeah.
And So he realizes, I think a little bit, she's not quite right, but he's not quite gone yet. She comes in to give him some fucking soup and is spilling it all over the place. But his publisher, I want to say, or the sheriff, maybe the publisher called the sheriff, and then the sheriff reached out to the guy who's renting the place. No, Paul left, he took off, and that's when the sheriff starts his. And as you said, this dude is so good. Like, I wish I could have just hung out with him. Maybe this character, though, I don't know. This guy could have been a terrible human being. I wish I could have hung out with this character. But he's got that softness that just looks like a grandpa, and his way of talking is good. So he's a little bit on the case, not really sniffing around. And I don't remember how soon Kathy Bates brings the book in, his current book, and is like, hey, here's the grill. He's like, I'm a little bit hungry. Can I have a snack, like some crackers? And she brings in a grill. He's like, this is not what I was thinking. It's just a grill, like a round one looking like a fucking dome that you take the top off. She brings it in and throws his book on there and covers it in lighter fluid. And he's like, what the fuck? And she's like, you got to get rid of this. Nobody could ever know this. This was a real thing. And he's like, doesn't really matter. Fucking already sent it to the publisher. Everybody, they're probably reading it right now, proofing it. Don't worry about it. She's like, no, in an interview 11 years ago, you told the dude that he's like, oh no, super fan, knows everything about this man. And she informs him that it's a superstition. That's why you go up the mountain to write. That's why you do all these other things and you didn't think anybody would buy your first book, so you never made a copy of it. And now you do that out of tradition because he's got plaques and shit all over the walls. He's a very, very accomplished writer. And so she tells him that, and he's like, fuck. They end up lighting that shit up. I think she does it. I don't know if he puts it in there. She's like, if you can't do it, I'll do it.
She makes him light the match and throw it on there.
Does she force his hand?
She makes him do it. And that really tore me up. But then, like, looking back, I've had some scripts that I wish that I could just light on fire.
Sure, dude. I can only imagine. But yeah, she makes him burn all his own shit up, and he's really bummed out about this, but at the same time, starting to get into survival mode.
Right.
Looking for
I'm fucked. No one's coming for me.
Nobody. And he keeps asking her though, like, hey, is that phone working? Oh no, it's still down. But I'm gonna go run into town and get some shit. He's like, oh, could you use the fuck phone in town? Somebody, oh no, they're down all the way down the mountain. Nobody can ever talk to anybody ever again. At least a while.
How about snail mail? Nope, that's broke too.
Everything's broke. Could you get the sheriff? No, he died. He got buried in snow. So burns up all the book. At this point, she takes off into town and he starts sneaking around the house. Picks a lock with a bobby pin dude, this shit is so intense.
Yeah.
He picks a fucking lock with a bobby pin that fell out of her hair. And he cannot walk. His legs don't function at all. So if he gets onto the ground, he's got to crawl like, he's perspirating everywhere. They said one day he showed up to set so hungover that they had to fucking reshoot everything. They told him, they were like, yeah, there's a problem at the lab, man. Don't worry about it. And once he found out what really happened, he paid out of pocket for all the, wasted time and shit like that. I'm like, good for you, fuck James Caan. That's how you be cool. Like, fucked up, man. I mean, so anyway, he scoots out into the house. The big thing we see here is him knock over her little penguin figurine, which will come into play a little later on. He knocks that over, barely catches it, and this fucking Hitchcockian sweep, like he's sweating, gets into the kitchen, I think, because he's trying the doors. He tries the front door, it's locked. If she locked you in there, she probably locked everything, But he goes through the kitchen, tries the kitchen door, finds her pharmacy that's fucking crazy. Entry closet just full of pills and bottles and bandages. Stags a couple pills, these red pills, like, take the red pills, Jimmy. Puts them down his pants and is on the floor trying to catch his breath. And she comes back and he hears her, and we get this back and forth, and Rob Reiner just kills it shooting this shit. The cat and mouse is really cool. Because he has to relock the door from the inside. but not before crawling back to his wheelchair, hauling his ass back up in there, going fucking backwards through the house, shutting the one door, then wheeling his ass into his room, getting the thing locked, and then getting over into the corner. And then she walks in, he's all sweaty and shit. And she's like, Paul, what happened, Paul? He's like, fucking, where's my pills? I need my pills. You fucking, she's like, oh, come on, let's get you in bed. He's like, nah, I'm fucking dying here. But come on, don't you love me? Give me the pill. Give, give me the pills. And so he tucks the pills into his pants and the bobby pin. He hides it somewhere on himself. And then she comes back, has the grand idea that he's going to write another book, but it's going to be a misery book.
Yep.
It's going to be a misery book. And so he sits at this keyboard that doesn't have a letter N. He's like, I got it at a used. And she's like, I told the guy that my favorite author has N in his name. And she's really almost childish. It's this other character. It's a Norman Bates type thing, that this youthfulness that got destroyed. Because correct me if I'm wrong, in the book, I think she got molested by her father and suffered like some severe childhood sexual trauma. And so this could be some form of personality, manifesting. We know that Stephen King now wrote this about his own addiction, but I think a lot of that, but he also writes people so well. That's what he does good, is he taps into what makes people people. But she roots back to this almost childish, like, guess what I got? It was only so many bucks and no letter N, but we're going to write the new misery thing. And he puts the thing in. And he's like, oh, that's wonderful because my favorite person has two N's in her name. And she's got the paper. He runs the word smudge on a piece of paper and says, I can't use this. Sorry. Fucking rubs off. And he pulls it out and shows her and she rubs it and she looks at her finger. She's like, oh, well, fucking fine then. And is slamming down reams of paper on his shit. And James way back, way back. Kathy Bates here. This has got to be hard.
Going from a 0 to 100, dude.
In a boom.
A split second, yeah.
Click. It's got to be hard, dude, to do that. And she does it so incredibly well that freaks you the fuck out. And then you remember that he can't move.
Right.
And so he has to play into this psychosis in a way. When she's the one way, he acts a certain way. When she's another way, he has to respond. He's a very respondatory, is that a word? Respondatory character? But it is now. But he is always responding to whatever mood or dial she's turned up or down to. But he tells her, hey, I can't do it without the fucking paper. Okay, I'll go to town and get you the paper. Sheriff's on this. I love him and his wife every time they're together. Fucking fantastic small town banter. Sheriff's trying to keep up with people, starts reading some of the misery novels, looking for, I guess, clues, any kind of insight into what would make Paul Sheldon fucking disappear, because he does get in a helicopter. The sheriff gets in a helicopter and they find Paul Sheldon's car. He sees it and he's like, oh shit, right down there. Look, fuck tires. And they go down, pull it out. County guy or whoever, which is also a recognizable face. I don't remember the actor's name, but I know I've seen the face a few times. He's like, it is presumed that Paul Sheldon's dead. He crawled out of the crash. Got to be buried out here somewhere. We probably won't find his body until the spring. Old-timey sheriff who's got the old-timey fuck sheriff ways. He's like, well, Ma, I don't know. That there door looks like it was fucked pried from the outside, so somebody dragged him out. And she's like, oh, so you think, I don't know. I'll go see something about something. And they provide the comic relief throughout all of this. When he's like, why are you messing with my papers? I got a system. It's like, and it is just shit everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, look, it's right there, exactly where I thought it'd be. She's like, where are you going? Oh, I don't know. See something about something. Just like you said, it chews up scenery every time this dude's on the scene. And so we are now presuming he's dead. As a viewer, it sucks because we're like, fuck, they think he's dead. Outside of one dude, but if we've seen enough cool movies, we know that the one old-timey sheriff is going to fucking help out in some way. He's going to help out in some way. So then he starts writing.
Yeah, he's got to. He doesn't have any other choice. But and he knows that like the longer he prolongs it and makes her happy, the more time he has to like get better and move around the house more.
Right, because he keeps sending her to go get stuff. But she wants to read every chapter and freaks out on him because it didn't line up. He's like, this doesn't make any sense at all. And she was talking about that was it. When I was like, fuck, dude, she's killing it. When she's talking about watching the serials at the movie theater. And she's like, everybody else was like, yay. And I stood up and screamed, no, this is all wrong. He did not get out of the car. And so she's been troubled for a
Right.
long time. And, that type of sexual trauma, I think, from someone who you're really supposed to trust and shit like that, like your own fucking father. Again, the number is 988. If you are suffering any kind of thoughts of, anything at all, dial that number. Then people will be able to point you in the right direction. But this has been going on for a long time, and we see her, and Rob Reiner kills it with these angles. He's way down. We're looking through James Caan's eyes, we're looking through Paul's eyes, and she's screaming right down at us. It's almost like Matilda in a fucking house, whatever, the mom motherfucking put him in the chowky, that type of angle. And you're just like, you feel so small looking at Annie Wilkes scream and spittle all over you because it didn't line up right. He's like, okay. But we do see Paul making a plan. We do see him, and I like his plans, man. He's a thinker. He takes the red pills, takes a piece of the little journal that she gave him when he was all fucked up. And she's like, in case you get an idea. And he's like, I don't know if I have any ideas. I mean, he was mashed really bad. But he takes this, starts creating a small pocket out of a piece of paper, folds a piece of paper so it's a small pocket, and starts to pull the little red capsules apart because he knows they're the pain pills because she's been giving them to him. He's been spitting them out of his mouth, putting all the powder into this thing. He tastes it, he smells it. Okay, I got an idea. I'm going to ask her to have dinner with me once we get close to the end of the book. Or maybe it's not quite the end of the book yet, but he's like, we're going to celebrate, Misery's return, I think is
Right.
what it is. Yeah. Because she comes in just happier than a pig in shit. Or she's sitting in the same room with him, I think, over in the corner reading. And then he looks at her like, oh, what do you think? Paul, I love it. I knew that so and so would remember that back in the day there was a bee sting thing that's a family lineage from 200 years. She's just so happy the Misery's back. So let's have dinner about it. He's trying to play her now, but we don't understand the full depth of her depravity yet. We imagine that he might have a chance here, and he almost does, dude. And this is in true Stephen King fashion. When you think there's going to be a good out, fuck no, you don't get it. How about we have dinner? She's ecstatic. This is a dream come true. Like you said, this is Bill Cosby come to your house and drugging you over dinner. It's a dream come true.
You
Was that
made
too
a
far?
game of yourself for what you
I
just
was
said.
gonna say, was that too far? Is that too much? Uh,
Oh,
no, so she's very excited about them having dinner together. His plan is to drug her, and I'm assuming try and find a way out of the house because he tried the phone but flips it over and there's no guts in it whatsoever. It's just there for it's plastic fucking fruit. It's there for nothing but to look at. So she sends him or he sends her into the kitchen or wherever. Hey, what about a candle? Oh, Paul. Candlelight dinner with Paul. Yes.
I don't like how you're doing that.
But she was made up just like fucking Little House on the Prairie, dude. Like had her hair all put in the big thing with the white frills, the blue dress that comes all the way up around the neck. She is trying to be Misery, I feel in some ways. Because when we see the Misery covers, it's very long. I don't know. I don't even know what, like longhorny, like that kind of backdrop. Like there's very steedy and windy blowing and people shirtless. And it seems like that time, the prairie time, I guess, or the unsettled West, whatever. But I feel like she's trying to be a reserved Misery, a Misery with prudence. You know what I mean?
Right. I don't know if you know anything about Outlander, but it's almost exactly this, dude. It's like the ladies that are in love with Outlander, like want to be this character Claire, and like they put that on like every man then has to be a redheaded outlander. It gets
Okay.
real fucking creepy, and I see like I know a girl that has socks that say my other husband is a fucking Scottish Outlander or something, and like, yeah, dude,
That's
it gets weird.
wild.
I see like bumper stickers and shit.
I mean, there's when, and I'm not to say that I'm not victim to some of that shit myself. I would say nowhere near as much as I once was, but people want to identify with something
Yeah, they want to escape
badly,
lives, dude.
badly. They want to have a connection and a feeling of connection. But if it's with something like that, it could be somebody like fucking Tom Brady.
Yeah,
People
yeah.
be like, it could be anything. It could be a LeBron James. It could be a Steven Spielberg. It could be a Quentin. It could be
I
a
just got back from Disneyland, dude, and there were
Mickey
people
Mouse.
walking into, well, the Mickey Mouse dude everywhere, but I couldn't believe the dudes showing up like it was fucking Comic-Con for Star Wars. They dress up full gear and go to Star Wars land. And I'm
Hey,
like, dude,
that's,
these
I
guys
mean, you
are,
know what? I think in Australia, it might be a religion. The Force is like a legal religion. I mean, I've known cats with legit Star Wars braids, dude. Like they're fucking Padawan braids and shit.
dude, we have a place here called the Jedi Alliance, and it's considered a church because Jedi is an actual like religious place.
Yeah.
It's built in an old church, and it's just an arcade, and it has a bunch of Star Wars shit. But they don't have to pay taxes because they're a Jedi Academy.
Right.
That's crazy.
I'd go hang out there all day.
I hang out, dude. I hang out there. I love it. I wish I was jealous of the guys that were dressed up in Disneyland, but at the same time, I was like, I would never do that because I don't want to go on Splash Mountain in fucking boots and a cape.
Right. Oh, okay, back to Misery, which is being in robes in Disneyland in a cape on Splash Mountain. Um, at dinner, he sends her for the candle and then drugs her wine glass. Boom, stirs it up. We're like, he got it, dude. He got it. He got her. She comes back, puts the candle in the middle. If you would have told me that I would be having a candlelit dinner with Paul Sheldon, it would be I'd never. And goes to light the candle, knocks over the wine glass.
Ah.
Oh, and he's looking. We see the defeat because those were the only pills he had.
You've been saving those up the whole time.
Right. He'd been saving up enough drugs to knock her out. And he's like, let me pour you some wine. And he fills it up nice and good because he wants to get her a little tipsy too. He knows she probably doesn't sit around and drink. So you
Right.
give her a nice full glass of wine, she'll put with some drugs. She'll be knocked out hopefully long enough to figure out how to get the fuck out of there. But unfortunately, bum bum bum, no good. So they have dinner. He goes back. She, when does he get the knife? He goes back to the kid. Maybe she's in town getting paper.
Yeah, she was in town at one point, or outside or whatever, and he climbs into the kitchen and gets a knife out and then hides it in his mattress.
Right, because he's training with it in his sleeve, like whoosh,
Yeah, yeah.
because he hears her come home. But I think that's after the night when she comes in and is full blown. She's like, "Yeah, sometimes when it rains, I get the blues," and just pulls a gun out of her pocket.
Yeah.
I better leave before I put some bullets in it. This other whole level of character that we haven't seen up until this point, and it's like, holy shit, dude, this woman is troubled. And by this time, I think he found the Memory Lane book, right?
Yeah, at some point he
He's
finds that.
aware that she was considered the death angel, and she's got all these news clippings of him being missing. It's national news by this point, and she's got stuff from her taking over different roles after a clipping of somebody's unexpected death, fell from the top floor. Annie Wilkes takes over the maternity ward. Angel of Death strikes again as babies continue to fucking fall off, and he's like, "Oh fuck, this is no good." And then she does the whole gun thing, like, "Yeah, fuck, I gotta go." And you're like, "Oh, dude." And then he's practicing with the knife and shit. Goes to sleep, wakes up kind of glistening at the sun, and then she pokes him with a needle straight into his arm. And he's like, "What the fuck?" Yeah. Out. Because she has access to a full pharmacy.
Yeah. She full on Bill Cosby's them.
I think it's even worse than that. She just got a needle straight into his arm. Wham! Okay,
Yeah.
he's knocked
Bill
the
gets
fuck
no
out.
pepper.
Right. Would you like a pudding pop? He, he wakes up as she's telling him about diamond miners in Africa who what they would do, and he's tied to the bed. He goes to reach for the knife. He's got his hand down there at the corner and he's reaching for the knife. She's like, "Oh, you looking for this?" She's like, "I know you got the fuck out. My little penguin boy, he always faces south. You turned him
Oh,
around the wrong way." Ugh. Now we as the audience with, the sympathizers for Paul are just like, what can he do? What can this dude do? What can they do to us to make this worse? And they give us the most iconic scene maybe of the 90s, one of them.
I think of all time, dude.
You
This
might
is right up there with the shower scene
shower
inside.
scene in Psycho.
Yeah.
And again, in the book, she cuts his feet off, or at least one foot off, because but we get the story of the miners who what they would do is called hobbling. And she pulls out what looks like a chunk of 4x4, sticks it between his ankles, and then is standing there with a big sledgehammer and explains to him that, you don't trash a Mercedes when it's still got some good miles on it. You just do what you got to do with it. They can still work even if they can't walk. We can just dump them into the diamond mines and they could still dig. And then he's like, "Please, Annie, don't do this. Don't do this." And she's like, "So whack." And the first one you get to watch for a fucking fraction of a second, but it is the one of the most nightmare fractions of a second, dude.
Yep. Yep.
Nightmare fuel. His ankle, his whole foot, 90-degree angle right on top of that 4x4.
Yeah.
Oh, oh. And then she's like, "This is for your own good. It's almost over, baby. Don't worry." Because I think even when she had the gun, she was like, "I love you as the man, or I loved you as the writer. Now I love you as the man." She's going through a lot with this dude, but then breaks his fucking legs all up. She tells him how she found him. I know you were sneaking around at least twice. I tried to figure out how you did it. Then I found your little fucking lockpick right here. And he's going to continue to write. The sheriff now has enough to go see Annie. He goes over to the Five and Dime. "Oh yeah, what you know about old fucking Annie Wilkes? She like these poor fuck baby books." He's like, and he's like, "Oh yeah, she always gets the first copy, dude. She wants the first one that shows up. She been buying anything weird? Not unless you consider paper weird." "Has Annie done anything?" "Oh, no, no, no. She ain't done nothing." Now he's going to drive to the old Wilkes place, which we see is off the beaten path. He's got to jump over a snowbank off the main road onto one of the side roads. Goes up to her house. Paul sees him coming in through the window, and he's like, "Yes." And we're like, "Yes."
Finally some hope. Yeah.
Finally, a little bit of hope. He's ready to start banging on the windows and shit, and she comes running the fuck in with a needle and just struggle, boom, hits him in the arm, takes him down to the basement, leaves him on the floor. "We knew something like this would happen. You just stay down here." And he's just like, "Brrr." And then the sheriff comes in. "Hey, sheriff, what can you tell me about, you know, Paul?" "Oh, he was born such and such. He's 45 years old, the only child of so and so." And that's not what I'm looking for. Like, anything else? "No, not really. You mind if I come in and look around?" "Sure, why not?" Comes in, looks around for a while. I like when they're both peeking out at each other from the kitchen and the room where Paul was at. And they keep peeking. When she finally stops peeking, because she says, "You want some cocoa?" "Sure, I'll take a cup." He goes upstairs, starts looking around, finds some things. The memory lane, I think, notebook. He starts to put some stuff together because he had gone, and maybe she told him something. There was a line or something that he found from one of his books that she had, or was in the newspaper, one of the newspaper clippings from when she was the angel of death. And so he's just about ready to go. Paul starts to wake up in the basement, and sheriff gets outside. She's like, "Okay, I'll see you later." And then bang. We see the grill that she has used to make him burn his book is now his saving grace. He's got this thing to make enough noise. Sheriff goes back into the house. Miss Wilkes, and he can't find her anywhere. And he starts walking back towards the front door and hears help from fucking down underneath the false wall, the false door. Opens the thing, sees Paul down there, like, holy shit, Paul Sheldon, is that you down there? Boom! Double eye fucking buck straight through the chest, dude, through his back, explodes out the front. Our hearts go with him. They're exploded with him. Everybody watching this movie is like, no, Garrett. Explosion. Goes tumbling onto the stairs. Now she is in suicide mode. She is like, okay, there's going to be more. We've gone too far now. She's logical enough to be like, I know with a dead sheriff, somebody's going to come looking for something because he told someone where he was going. Or maybe not. He's always just like, oh, well, no, he told dude. At least he was looking into Annie Wilkes. They would have probably figured that out at the general store. But she tells Paul, this is it. I got 2 bullets in my gun, one for me, one for you. She's got the fucking needle ready to put him to sleep because she's not going to shoot him while he's alive. We'll be in eternity forever. We're meant to be together. Some real crazy shit. Gets ready to stick him. He's like, what about misery? The plot thickens. He convinces her the story has to be finished. Let's give misery an eternal send off so she'll be there forever. And then you and I can go off into eternity together because he still every once in a while throws at her like, I love you too, Annie. I realize that now. We are meant to be together. And you see these little fucking like her programming's going bad. Like, what happened? It's, so she agrees to this, takes him back upstairs. He's been working out with the typewriter too. Like a fucking Rocky Four montage. The book's getting close to the end, and he tells her, I need my 3 things. But he stole the lighter fluid. We forgot to tell that. He stole it from down in the basement, and he's had it in his pants the whole time because she just put the fucking wheelchair at the top of the stairs and said, I'm gonna go make you something to eat.
Yeah.
Crawl your ass back up here. Yeah, I'm not even gonna help you. Which worked in his favor though, because had she would have found the lighter fluid for sure, would have fell out. So he sends her for the cigarette, the champagne, and the single match. He's ready to end Misery's story, ready to let her read the last chapter. She goes to get the shit. She gets this and that, but then he's like, I need something else. Sends her for something else, takes the whole book, throws it on the floor, covers it in lighter fluid, makes a torch out of a couple pages, and essentially he's like, hey, fuck you, lady. And hits it, and he's like, I learned from the best of them. Throws it on, it starts going. He does this to pull her into that position. He needs her right where she's sitting because he picks up the typewriter and fucking ping right in the side of the head. But she is strong.
Yes, she is.
Very strong. The first ping doesn't even really take her down for very long. They go to, she's on top of him, choking him against the window, hitting his head like, fuck, my head hurts. And then he slings himself in the wheelchair, both wheels, and launches himself straight out at her, 2 hands on the ground, trying to choke her out and shit. They're fighting. And then he eventually gets the little pig statue.
Yeah.
He gets a pig, like the misery pig, and just fucking lays into her, dude. Ting, 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 ting. And does she bounce back one more time? I feel like
at one point he grabs the flaming book and shoves it in her mouth.
And he's like, "Wait, Dad, you want it so bad." Yeah, you're right. Choke on that, you crazy bitch. Yeah, that was good. But he gets her gone.
Yeah. In the book, they wind up outside and he sticks her head in a lawnmower.
That's what I thought I read. And when I was looking at some of the trivia and behind the scenes on this one, that there was a much more brutal ending.
That's what I was waiting for. And I just wanted to see that. I want to see the revenge. I felt like he didn't get his revenge. He just like killed her and that was it.
I mean, why? I feel like watching somebody get their head knotted into almost nothing is pretty fucking brutal. But he does he
What
ever
makes it
but
good?
does he ever truly get his revenge? Because after her death, we jump forward 18 months.
Right.
He's with his publisher, sitting there talking about the success of the most recent thing. Hey, have you ever thought about writing nonfiction about what happened to you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's like, you know, not really. Because and he sees the dessert tray coming up and it's Annie Wilkes walking and he gives this little bit of monologue about how I don't think I'll ever be free. So regardless of how he killed her, I don't think
Right.
he will. And like revenge wouldn't have solved it. She's gonna haunt him for the rest of his days
Yep.
because of the insanity of that situation. Or, maybe, I mean, 18 months, I feel like he'd probably still be in therapy of some sort, like even to walk.
Right.
But I guess in the book, he got a prosthetic leg or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he has a cane in this one and he's walking along, but it had only been 18 months. So maybe, in 10 years, he could reflect back on it and say, okay, now I can see it objectively, but I still feel he was too close to the actual event to be
Right.
able to recall that in an objective manner. And you see her walk up and then it's the other girl and she's like, I'm your biggest fan. Fucking misery, dude.
Beautiful.
Yeah. What do you got? I know I kind of talked through a lot of that one. Like I said, I was all amped up because I did that 45 minutes on Facebook Live, doing that live event, which I got to figure out how to download because I'm going to add it to our YouTube channel as well. So maybe some of these people can check it out if they want to. Some cool shit. But Misery, give it to me, especially as somebody who read the book first. And then out of how many backwards penguins do you give Rob Reiner's Stephen King's Misery?
I give this movie 5 backward penguins. And we were just saying the other day, I don't know if I've ever given anything a 5, but I feel like if you're holding things up to Jaws, this is as good as Jaws. Annie Wilkes is a big fucking white shark.
Dude, you just hit the fucking
Yeah.
nail right on the head.
Yeah, dude.
Absolutely. I am with you, and this is a 5 out of 5 for me. It
Yeah.
is masterfully executed. The tension is so good, and her performance is just real life, terrifying, scary.
Yes.
If you've ever known someone who turns it on and off like that, who can flip it like a switch, that shit can be, especially people who grew up around, alcoholic parents and shit who are like in a great mood 1 second, and then all of a sudden like a fucking monster. She plays that so well and so scary.
The fact that you can love this movie at 12 years old and then love this movie at 47 years old is like
Fair, dude.
to it, you
That's
know?
fair. And like you said, it's Jaws, it's Silence of the Lambs. It's a different level of horror that didn't go out, I think, trying to be a different level of horror. They
Oh, it
just got
tried
the
to be
right,
a
you know what I
western,
mean? And I
but
think that's the difference between some of the superficial horror we see today that's like, here, you have to fucking take this idea and fucking, I'm gonna jam it down your fucking throat like Paul fucking Sheldon did to Annie Wilkes and fucking Misery. This was a lot of good ideas and a lot of the right elements came together at the right time and made a really cool thing. That's how Jaws happened. And Jaws was a pain in the ass. If you read the Jaws journals, about production, it was a nightmare. But you had the right elements there at the right time. Same thing, Silence of the Lambs. Nobody expected that to run away with the Oscars and stuff, but it was all there. All the ingredients for really good soup were right there at the right time. And this is a great example, probably one of the best horror movies of the 90s, if not of all time.
for sure. I hold it right up there with like Shawshank Redemption as
Yeah.
like Stephen King. Stephen King, he can write horror, but he does drama so well because he just understands
Yeah.
people.
Or The Green Mile, dude.
Miles, so good. That was another one I read the books before I saw the movie, and
Yeah. So
yeah,
good. So good. So yeah, 100%, 5 out of 5. Give it to Misery if you haven't watched it in a while. Definitely check it out. And then next
possible to
week,
find, which sucks.
what's that?
You can't get it anywhere. It's not streaming anywhere.
No, I own it in a couple different ways.
I own it too, so that's how I watched it. But yeah, you can order it on Prime, but that's it. It's not for free anywhere.
Hey, got to do what you got to do. I know I got a physical copy somewhere, but I know I own a digital copy as well. Because when I opened it up, it just said play. because I just talked to the remote like misery. Hey, all right, I must own that. I don't have to look for it anywhere. The mindfulness portion of this, actually, before the mindfulness portion of the show, next week, what do we have? I don't have the list. Do you have that message that you can access? I want to say it was something on the newer side, maybe VHS Beyond. I know that's coming
There.
up.
Yeah. Okay,
I,
here we go.
I
It
know.
is Heart Eyes.
Oh, yes. So that
Yeah.
that's a new one, like a horror comedy thing that I don't know a ton about, but I keep seeing it pop up in my face all over. So I'm like, you know what? We'll check that out. We'll
Yeah.
give it a look and yeah, see if it's any good. 'Cause you never know. New shit's cool too, man. New shit, old shit, super old shit. You know, I like the super old black and white, the silent stuff, the unholy three and shit like that is so good. So for the mindfulness portion, I'm just going to continue on with what I was talking about on Facebook, and I finally got this stuff done, and this is the first chamber of Pops Ghostly's Seven Chambers of Tattoo. And it's really kind of chambers of life. I think it's ways you can kind of do life a little bit.
Where'd you come up with chambers?
From I guess initially it would have been Wu-Tang, but then Wu-Tang led me to the movie, the Gordon Liu flick, the 36 Chamber of Shaolin. And if you watch that, like that is an epic on so many different levels about this dude coming from one place, going to the temple, like, help me and shit. And they're like, no. And he comes back like, help me and shit. And he does the all the chambers faster than anybody's ever done it. In the last chamber is to take Shaolin to the people, to actually leave Shaolin and leave the temple and go take it to the people. And it's badass. And I like the idea of just the movie is set up to where he has to complete a chamber before he can go to the next one. Like one of them is you got a fucking bunch of sandbags in front of you and you got to headbutt them until your head is like steel. You know what I mean? Another one is smoke and mirrors where you got to be able to stop these things that are moving. You know, all about eyesight, and you can't go to the next one until you do the first one. And I always like that idea because it gives you a path, you know, that you can kind of follow. And I'm just going to share the first chamber, the actual write up or the couple of sentences, because I try to make them all a couple of sentences, and then I've been expanding upon them as well. And chamber one is pay yourself first. Pay yourself first. The most valuable resource we have is our time. We must see its full value to be its master. Waste not in all things. And then I got two quotes to go along with that. If you spend too much time thinking about a thing, you'll never get it done. Bruce Lee. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Steve Jobs. But you have to, we have to, not you have to, we have to truly understand the value of our time and look at it and determine, you know, are you where you want to be in life? And if you are, that's amazing. I hope you're out there changing the world. I hope you've reached a great, amazing place where you are changing the world. But I think a lot of us, you know, are in a position where we could take a good look at how we spend our time and then rearrange that a little bit, do something a little different with it. Because, like you said, you know, you were 12 when you saw Misery. Now you're 47. You know what I mean? In 40 years, you're going to be 87,
And
hopefully.
in that time, I haven't done anything.
That you haven't done anything. You've done plenty.
I got older.
But what you do have, one of the big things I kind of captured in here. Well, first was these the top five kind of deathbed regrets. Do you want to hear these?
Yeah.
So these come from Bonnie Ware. She's an Australian, or I don't think she's still a nurse because her book came out a little while ago, maybe like 2010, 11, 12, I don't know. But Australian palliative, so end of life nurse and author. And she documented five common themes that she saw keep coming up at people at the end of their lives. Five things over and over, these reoccurring themes. And these are the top five in order. Number one, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. And these are real people dying on their deathbed. This is the shit that they're saying. This ain't, you know, me or nothing like that. Number two, I wish hadn't worked so hard. Number three, I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. Because I'm sure people get to that deathbed like, I wish I would have told that person I fucking loved them because now I see it and I can't no more. Number four, I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. And then number five, I wish I'd let myself be happier. And as I assess these five things, so many of them have to do with time, like what we're doing in with our time, working so hard. That's a time thing. We commit so much overtime to living up to some expectation that in some ways might have been set by somebody else to begin with. I mean, they even said it like she said it. Again, not my words, not even paraphrasing, not the life others expected of me. We work our ass off to live a life to meet someone else's expectations.
Yeah.
That's no good. And then again, with time, I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. We all have that time right now. In every moment, we are nothing more than potential, potential ready to do, move us towards something, move us away from something, move us into anything. We can, even if it's really hard to express our feelings, even if it means writing it down. That's a time thing too. The biggest time one, I think this one's a one that I've suffered a lot too is I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. I'm trying to reconnect with a lot of people in my life who I feel I had really genuine, relationships with to see if those things still exist, if those seeds are still there. But often we get caught up in the working too hard, using our time to work too hard. And, family takes up our time when people start to separate. But there's no reason we can't cut back on the working so hard and using all of our time for that to just make time for the people in our lives, whether that be, extended family, neighbors, whatever. And then I wish I'd let myself be happier. That's a tough one. That is a tough one because I'm a believer that happiness is a choice. I know that's really hard to digest, a hard statement to digest. It's a very long process, I feel, to get to the being where happiness truly is a choice or appears, for the most part to be a choice because it boils down to how we respond to the world around us. There is true trauma in the world, losing loved ones is very, very hard. Losing people you care about is very hard. But I don't think that severity should be applied to getting the wrong order at a restaurant, somebody taking too long in a line, road rage, where we see, intense emotions coming up, where if we take a second and one breath and just decide, do I want to be ignorant? Do I want to be not ignorant?
Right.
But to assess, and there's, if you really want to check it out, you can find my Povs Ghostly Facebook page. Or so I don't know. I'll put a link to the Facebook page in the show notes and you can watch it. It was like a 45-minute video. It was pretty good. It feels like what I'm supposed to be doing right now because I've been assessing a lot of my own shit, man. Like it's fucking hard when you can't walk like you're, used to normally walking. And when you get sick, you're like, fuck, I can't move.
All right. Right.
It is tough, but at the same time, it's like, okay, what's my position? How can I respond to this? All of these things that I feel I've been fighting towards are now just real. There's no superficial, there's nothing, I genuinely just feel on this mission to fucking help people with ink, love, and kindness. If I can use that banner to kind of put myself under for a little while and just help people out. But that starts with assessing. You got to assess your time and what you do with your time because it could end in 40 years or it could end tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah. And maybe you just say I don't care and that's, a choice. Everything is a choice. Everything is a choice to make that can move you one way or the other. So what do you got on time?
Yeah, no, I really am struggling with that right now. I think that everything, like a lot of like the first four steps, I feel like I've been like working on those and I've gotten past them. But that last one, I beat myself up, dude, about my time. Whether I'm doing something that I really need to be doing, I'll still think there's about 10 other things I could be doing,
Right.
and yet I picked the right one. And I really beat myself up about it. And I really try not to. I understand that like I'm wasting my time beating myself up, but I'm afraid, and it's a fear-based thing. I'm totally afraid that if I don't beat myself up, I don't have anything to push myself because the only thing that pushes me is myself. And so I'm afraid if I stop beating myself up, that I'm just going to be this lazy fucking slob that just because my want is to just lay in bed and watch TV all day and play video games. That's what I would probably do if I didn't kick myself in the ass constantly. So I got to be careful. Also, I don't have a job. I fucking love it, but it's not sustainable forever. And it scares the shit out of me going back to a job because that's what made me unhappy. But I have to realize that, like, I understand I'm in a position that most people don't have. My wife can take care of our whole family, and we're okay without me having a job. There's a lot of dudes out there pulling their fucking hair out trying to figure out, like,
Right.
man, I could, I can't even take 3 days off, much less quit my fucking job and just like soul search.
True.
So
I hear a lot of different things in there. One of them, though, I want to pull out because you said there's a cognitive distortion called fortune telling. And you said, I'm afraid to get a job because you're bringing the past to the idea of the future.
right, yeah,
I would say work on removing, if you can, some of those things because you could. I mean, for me, landing tattooing, after however many years of, I think I got my first job at 14, 13, picking fucking strawberries, $5 a bushel and worked ever since that. And then finally landed in art as a career and ready to fucking hit the ground running like Sonic the Hedgehog and then get thrown a multiple sclerosis diagnosis that slows all that, really far down. So don't ever look at it as a career as being a potential bad thing. Just line yourself up to where when it does pan out, it's something that just makes sense and you almost feel bad about doing and charging people money for because you enjoy doing it so much.
right, yeah,
But it is hard, man. And you will always beat yourself up worse than anybody else. I think we're somehow wired that way as people. You got to actively work against that inner dialogue until it finally quiets itself down enough. And you can just like be quiet down there. Take a little nap. Take a little nap. That's it. That's it. Go to sleep. But yeah, our time is incredibly important. And and I look at myself, like you said, there's some days where I'm like, fuck, I don't want to do nothing, man. And you say like, you feel that tired. That fucking sick tired is pretty much how I feel all the time.
right.
All the time.
Every time I feel tired, I go, I bet I'm not tired like Pops Ghostly's tired.
I don't want to, I don't, and I don't put it out there for that exactly, but I still believe it's worth fighting for. And I think the things that I'm trying to put out into the world are for people who want to fight to hopefully get to the deathbed and be like, I don't really regret a lot. I told the motherfuckers I love them. I
Yeah.
pursued the thing that I felt in tune with, that thing where when I'm doing it, we talked about Stephen King, dude. Writers can make a lot of money. It's a big saturated world now with the digital age, but you write a good story like Anne Rice, you open up, you write something good that people are going to attach to, and you could be a writer, a successful writer. There's no reason that can't be your job. And you shouldn't fear that. You should fear going back to a situation that gave you super bad anxiety and shit.
Yeah.
But now I think you're so much more free of that than like if it happened again, you'd probably be like deuces, dude.
Yeah, I wouldn't accept it like I did before.
And it's never too late to chase your dreams. There's a lot of people that after 40, 50, fucking 60 made their, impression, I guess, what they would consider maybe their legacy.
Right.
Wrote their stuff later in life. But, and I'll leave you with this. If you have zero expectations for yourself, you can just enjoy every moment as being the coolest shit ever.
Right.
And no, like I'm a very small piece of the timeline. I'm gonna try and be a fucking positive piece. If you were to put all your parents and your grandparents and shit like little bricks or dominoes, be like, I'm gonna try and be a shiny one. Leave a little bit of a shiny, even if it stains the next generation going that way a little bit. That'll be all right. I'm gonna try and leave some positive on that. And then everything you do every single day, if it's hanging out with your kid, if it's fucking smiling at somebody at the gas station, can be an act of fucking righteousness that changes the world, motherfuckers. For Pop Extravaganza, I have been Pops Ghostly.
I forgot my name.
Something boner spit.
No! No! horror, extravaganza.